Hello, my name is Tom Ratinne. My wife Ann and I live on Pickering Road in Belmont County, Ohio, near the small town of St. Clairsville. And preparations for this injection well began, over a year ago, clearing ground and things like this. So my intention is to give you a little bit of a rundown on our experience following the points that were given to me that I could follow, so I wouldn't just meander all over the place with my comments. So here's what I've got. I'm going to read this to you. Your experience with ODNR, Division of Oil and Gas. All right, regarding communication. The ODNR inspector, Ryan Armstrong, does not communicate with us unless called upon to do so. When we have called him or other ODNR officials, our questions are often brushed aside. One official we spoke to in Columbus, a gentleman named Dave Ball, kept passing the buck, saying, regarding our questions, in quotes, "That is up to the higher-ups. That is up to the higher-ups." He said this repeatedly. We had asked about the sign required by the permit, the gate required by the permit, and the sound light barrier required by the permit. When asked whether the logs prepared by Omni, the company that's doing this well, Omni Energy Group, LLC, regarding their drilling process, whether the logs could be trusted, our inspector, Ryan, really had no answer. There was no indication that anyone from ODNR would be checking them for accuracy. He said that his main interest with the site was the actual drilling of the hole and cementing of the casing. He said something to the effect that he would be here 24/7 during that process. He seemed to be washing his hands of any activities on the site other than the drilling itself. But now that the drilling is in progress, we have not seen that much of Ryan. All right, point number 2 were noted violations that were never followed up. There is no real fence around the site. Omni did put up an orange snowdrift fence where the site borders partially with ours and with Pickering Road. It is a pathetic effort which may technically be called a fence, but is not a serious barrier to anything or anyone. It was put up, we imagine, because when much of the property was excavated, a sort of high wall was created where Omni's property adjoins ours. A stranger wandering around in the dark could face serious injury if he fell over the wall. About 15 feet, I suppose, is the distance from the top to the bottom. We suspect that their lawyers suggested the fence. There is still no gate for the property off Pickering Road. There are now ingress-egress points onto US Route 40 from the site. These are very recent additions. Until recently, Omni was accessing the site from Pickering Road, which is the road we live on, and this was not authorized, or from a lot just east of Pickering Road. Omni had no permit to use this lot from US Route 40. Nevertheless, it was used by multiple trucks every day. Technically, this was a problem for ODOT, but they've showed no willingness to enforce their own rule. Trucks entering this lot would then have to cross Pickering Road to reach the well site. All right, point 3. Knowledge of violations, spills, leaks, explosions, cleanups. Well, no serious explosions that we're aware of, but I will say a spill of oil or diesel fuel on Pickering Road was reported to Ohio EPA, which supposedly reported it to ODNR. To our knowledge, no action was taken. After a week or so, the spill was washed away by rain and snow. Trucks have left muddy tracks as they cross Pickering Road, the same as they have exited from Pickering Road onto US Route 40, and from the eastern lot onto US Route 40. Even now, there are deficiencies in the permit, we are told. Omni has faced no repercussions. Omni's permit allows the use of earthen barriers for sound and light mitigation. This is completely insufficient as far as we're concerned. Come to our home and walk into our yard to experience this earthen barrier mitigation. Light shines into our bedroom at night. While annoying, I can nevertheless get to sleep. My wife, however, struggles to do so. Public hearings. A public hearing was promised to the people of Belmont County to allow them to express their objection to these injection wells. This never happened. The promised hearing was delayed temporarily, then permanently by the COVID-19 pandemic. A public hearing was never held. A good excuse not to have to hear from us. After sitting on Omni's permit for several months, ODNR was directed by the Ohio Supreme Court to make a decision. Of course, they chose to grant the permit. There is no record of any permit for saltwater injection being rejected by ODNR. All right, we're supposed to express, this is point 5, express our dissatisfaction with agency oversight. Our experience with the whole injection well process has been short, but in the months that we have been dealing with it, we have seen how ineffective, and may I use the word corrupt, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources seems to be. Numerous comments were sent to them. Many were hand-delivered, expressing the objections of the citizens of Richland Township and Belmont County. ODNR saw nothing relevant in these objections, we were told. There is no good place for a saltwater injection well, but this has to be about the worst possible site. The intersection of a major interstate highway, I-70, with a major U.S. highway, U.S. Route 40, and a state highway, State Route 331, standing by the wells, it is possible to throw a stone and hit any and all of them. Throw a bit farther and you could hit any of 3 gas stations. Within a mile is Ohio University Eastern, a state prison, the Belmont Harrison Joint Vocational School, now called the Career Center, Belmont College, the Belmont County Health Department, and other county offices, the Friends Church and School, and the Belmont Hills Country Club. The salt water that will be injected into these wells has been shown to be toxic and even radioactive. From what I've heard, this information is not required to be shared with the drivers or other workers involved in this process. I find this hard to believe. I would think they would at least have to sign a release of some sort to be put on the job doing these things. These workers end up taking this stuff home to their families, and they're going to be dumping it in the ground less than 300 feet from where I live. It can be argued that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources is not really a regulatory agency whose purpose is to protect the citizens of Ohio. Instead, it seems to function as an arm of the oil and gas industry that it is supposed to regulate. It is a captive of the industry and does not serve the people of the state. I will finish by telling of the difficulties we face living next to an injection well site. The disruption to our daily lives as we attempt to document the goings-on at the site, the logging of events, the daily efforts to photograph what is happening over there in case someone might actually care. There is the noise of the diesel engines and the generators, the smell of the exhaust, which is totally unhealthy. There is the stress of living with these conditions. My wife wanders around the house many nights, looking out of our window to see what is happening. We worry about the quality of the air we breathe. We worry about the possible presence of radioactive substances on our road and in our air. Finally, there is the smug arrogance of the site director, who struts around like a king, using the F word or making the FU gesture to anyone who looks at him the wrong way. and seems to challenge his authority. I'll finish again by saying that ODNR should not have primacy in regulating these wells. The oil and gas industry seems to have primacy over the ODNR. The industry should be regulated by the US EPA or some other agency which is beyond the reach of the industry. Thank you.